Okay. Hi, my name's Rory Mellis, and I will be giving the summary of my project number two. And let me see. Oh, and real quick, um, so the professor asked for this to be an idle or like a Python file, an idle, which I have. I don't know if it'll pull it up on the screen share, but which I have right here. Um, but since I just think it's a little easier to use, I'm going to be demonstrating my program in um, like an online compiler, which I made my program in here and then just copy and pasted it into idle. But anyway, so to start with the first line, and so basically this first whole block of code, this whole highlighted section is just kind of like the basics of the program. We're obtaining values from the user that we're going to be using in the rest of the program. And or I guess I'll cover customer code valid input before these two. So the very first line, we are just creating a list or I think you call it an array of string values. We have RCI in uppercase and lowercase. And basically we're going to use this just to test that the value that the user inputs into this customer code variable matches with this list. Otherwise, the program would not run because basically you have to be either a residential, a commercial, or an industrial customer. So if you enter like P or something, I don't know, there's no real point to it. Okay, so getting started, we have the customer code. And so this is just intaking the customer code from the user, and it should be one of these string values. Okay, I think that's pretty simple enough. The initial and final meter are just the initial and final reading on the meter. And I think the only real thing that stands out about these is that instead of keeping them or storing them as integers, I'm going to store them as strings so that I can use the length function later on to make sure that the user inputted a 9-digit number. And then, so the last two lines of this block, we're creating the cash owed and the gallon usage variable, which are probably the two most important variables in this whole program. I'm creating them here. I'm gonna be modifying them throughout based on the user's inputs. And then finally, I'm gonna be outputting them at the very end with basically just saying your total gallon, or total like water gallons, your total amount of gallons used this month, and then your total money owed. And then that's basically the end of the program. So, okay, so this first line for this next block, line 13, is just checking if the string that the user inputted is in this list or array up here. If it is, it'll just move right on because it's a not in. So this is only checking if the what they entered is not in this list. But if it is not in this list, then it will print an error, invalid customer code, and there's no like extra code to loop it back to the start to ask them to re-enter because that was specifically asked for in the directions. I think in a normal, like if this was actually for a company or something, you would obviously want to loop it back and just say like, you did not enter a valid thing, please try again, instead of the whole program just kind of ending. But anyways, on to the next block. So this first if statement is just checking that the values exist for initial, final meter, and the customer code. So first, we're just going to print the customer code, the initial and final readings back to the customer. And here we're really just checking we're just making sure that the initial and final meters variables have 9 digits in them. If they don't, it will again just print error and the code will end. And lastly, we're just checking in this if statement here to make sure that the initial reading is greater than the final meter. Oh, right. Okay. So it's basically saying that if your initial reading is greater than your final reading, it would again print an error. And normally an else statement I would use as, like, I would say this is what I want. If it's not in these, else, like I would put my error functions there. But here I used if to sort through the errors, and else is basically just if their inputs were valid, and then the program will actually start kicking in. Here again, just making sure that the values are equal to 9. Gallon usage. Okay, and then so basically here, we're gonna have our 3 main if statements. This block right here, this block right here, and then this block right here. And these are our 3 sequences for, first is R or residential, next is C or commercial, and last is I or industrial. And so if I run through them, the residential one is the simplest. It basically just charges them a base fee of $5, which is right here, which we're setting to the cash owed. And then we're gonna add 0.0005 cents per gallon for however much they use that month or quarter. I don't know, that's not really like described in the program. I'm just gonna assume it's for a month. Yeah, and so that one's pretty simple, to be honest. Next we have the commercial, and again it's just checking if the customer code is equal to R or big R, and here BC or big C, so it knows to trigger the commercial sequence. So so here we're going to set the commercial gallon usage equal to 4, is it 4 million? I think it's 4 million. Yeah, pretty sure. I'm gonna have to double check that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 4 million. And it's basically saying, like, the rule for this one is that if it's less than 4 million, they just they pay a flat fee of 1,000. And if it's greater, then they pay 1,000 plus 0.00025 dollars per gallon, which is added in this line here. And then that will set that equal to cash owed. Move on to the industrial. So the industrial is pretty much the same thing as the commercial, except instead of it just being it's greater or less than 400,000, here you have like 3 brackets, I guess what you could say. So if it is less, so if the gallon used by the industrial customer is less than or equal to 4 million, they'll pay a flat fee of 1,000. If it is if it's greater than 4 million but less than 10 million, they will pay a flat fee of 2,000. And if it's above 10 million, which these values are stored into these variables right here. If it's above 10 million, then they'll pay the flat fee of 2,000 plus 0.00025 per extra gallon that they used. And then so that's basically it. Like we've gotten the inputs, we've made sure that they were valid, and then we basically just sorted them into whatever group the customer should be put in, whether it's residential, commercial, or industrial, and calculated the cash owed and the gallons used in those for the specific requirements. And then we're basically at the end. Now we have our stored values. We know how much water they use and how much money they owe. We just need to output it. So these two lines right here are just formatting it so that the gallons is rounded to the tenths, so 1 decimal, and that the cash owed will be rounded to the hundredths place, or basically like any generic money value, because we use cents. You don't want them like a cash owed value that has like 0.0008 cents. It doesn't really make any sense. So once we've formatted it, we're simply just going to print them. And at the start, I just had print format the variable, but then I added a little bit of text just to kind of make it a little cleaner. So it'll print the gallons used, and then the text gallons used this month. And then the line below it will output your total money owed is, money sign, and then it'll input the integer value for how much the money is. Or I think it's actually a float value, sorry, not integer. And then I just added this little line at the end just to kind of make it seem more like a customer service bot, kind of. I just said, thank you for using our services, and then the program's over, basically. So now I'll just run you, I think I'll just do 3 test runs just to show you the commercial, the industrial, and then the residential, commercial, and industrial. So let's do residential first. Let's say that our initial reading is 0. Make sure it's 9. And then let's just say 999, 999, 999. And perfect. So we got the amount of gallons used this month, our total money owed, and then of course the nice thank you statement at the end. But now let's just say, for instance, that I did R. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I did 8 on that first initial value, so I should get an error. Odd. Anyways, let's try commercial now. So we'll do big C. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And then let's say 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8. And yes, as you can see, for commercial, it charges that base rate of 1,000, and then since the amount I typed in was so absurd that it added an extra like around 20 grand for all the gallons that were used. But let's see. Yeah, let's see. So let's try it one more time with commercial. And let's see, what if I do 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then I do 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. So this should give a flat rate of 1,000. Perfect. Now let's do the final one, industrial. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So let's just do a simple one just to make it give us the flat value of 1,000 again. Perfect. And this time let's do 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's do a huge value. And yeah, perfect. And I guess for the last one, let's just try entering, let's try P to make it run an error. And yeah, error invalid customer code. And it actually still ran the rest of it, which I kind of need to fix, but yeah, it did give us this error code. So yeah, that's basically the extent of the program. Yeah, thank you.